The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Good morning. Today is Tuesday. It is April 5th, 2022, and welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. I want to say good morning to everyone who's watching us via Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, as well as Act TV, where they encourage you to do more than watch. They need you to act. Go to act.tv/join to become a member. Good morning to our entire team. As they start coming in this morning, we'll be seeing various members of the morning show team joining us. And we have a lot of conversations that we have to have. But as always, we begin rooted and steeped in Black history. So we begin this morning. Hey, Google, what happened today in Black history?
Newspaper publisher John Henry Murphy was born into slavery, but gained his freedom and fought for the Union Army in the Civil War. He founded the Baltimore Afro-American newspaper at age 50, maintaining a fiercely independent editorial position. His paper became the longest-running Black family-owned newspaper in the nation. Murphy passed away on April 5, 1922. Adapted from Black Heritage Day calendar by author, lecturer and civil rights activist Dr. Karl Mack.
And again, it's always a pleasure to have this information. I'm excited about being able to root our show in Black history. There's something that happens when you consider our ancestors. You consider those, our elders, those that went before us, those who paved the way. The song says that we're treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Those people paved the way for us to do the things that we do. But more specifically, they were brave enough to face the biggest empire in the history of the world. These individual Black people, they were brave enough to take this empire on head on, despite not having the most advanced technology, despite sometimes going by themselves. They stood. Much like Ketanji Brown Jackson, I want to shift gears. Can I just talk about the absurdity of these extremely mediocre white conservative men who have the talent of a sloth, who have the skill and the efficiency and the professionalism of a Neanderthal, going after one of the most distinguished and the most talented women in America, people in America, Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was locked in a deadlock in the Judiciary Committee, 1111. They could not get out of committee without several procedures being taken by the Senate at large. But I just cannot handle, or perhaps I can, maybe I just can't stand the glaring hypocrisy of someone as mediocre as Lindsey Graham, someone as just plain incompetent as Tom Cotton, these people who literally have no talent other than demagoguery, attacking this distinguished, well-established, well-prepared, and extremely professional candidate, as compared to Amy Coney Barrett. Amy Coney Barrett, who was the last person appointed by Donald Trump, she testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee and could not list out the 5 fundamental freedoms that are enshrined in the First Amendment. Now, mind you, this is the job of judges, of Supreme Court justices, is to be able to interpret the Constitution and apply it to whatever is happening in the world today. And the last appointee to the Supreme Court, Donald Trump's pick, Amy Coney Barrett, could not do that. But yet these ungrateful, unthoughtful, I'm not talking about their consideration for us. I'm talking about they don't have the capacity to have deep thoughts because of their demagoguery. They went on a tirade yesterday. I'll give you a lot more information as far as where it's going, but I want us to play these clips of the Republican senators who absolutely have no shame because they don't realize they have no clothes on. Let's take a look at it.
Not a single Republican senator asked her about her high school yearbook, engaged in the kind of personal slanders that Democrats have made a business about. If the questions were hard, it is because her record is at the extreme. If Judge Jackson is confirmed, I believe she will prove to be the most extreme and the furthest left justice ever to serve on the United States Supreme Court.
I asked her a very simple question. I asked her to define the word woman. Wasn't a trick question. It's something that everybody learned in grade school science class. But Judge Jackson refused to answer. The fact that she couldn't or wouldn't answer that question speaks volumes. It tells me that Judge Jackson is beholden to the radical left that is teaching our children that they can choose their own sex.
But if we're in charge, she would not have been before this committee. You would have had somebody more moderate than this. So I want you to know right now, the process you started to go to a simple majority vote is going to rear its head here pretty soon, where we're in charge. Then we'll talk about judges differently.
Judge Jackson habitually sympathizes with criminals over victims. As a trial judge, Judge Jackson could only give the benefit of the doubt to one criminal at a time. As a Supreme Court justice, she would be able to give the benefit to criminals nationwide in all cases.
Now, that last voice was the voice of Skeletor, the evil leader of the, that was Tom Cotton, drenched in white supremacy. I mean, just look at his face. Tom Cotton is a senator who is so drenched in white supremacy, it is exuding out of his skin. You can just see the bags around his eyes come from fascism, right? The energy as he speaks is just from his pure rooted evilness. Tom Cotton is a fascist, and he has a nerve to actually speak about someone who actually cares about justice. Ted Cruz doesn't like his wife, right? Let's just be clear. Ted Cruz, who stands up more for Donald Trump than he stood against Donald Trump when Donald Trump called his wife ugly. What manner of man is Ted Cruz? And that, who's that, Blackburn? Anyway, this entire barrage of senators from the Republican side, it is a farce. Before I play, we're going to find this clip of Amy Coney Barrett, because I want there to be a clear juxtaposition between the brilliance of Ketanji Brown Jackson and how this Senate treated her, how these Republicans treated her, compared to the vast incompetence. I mean, let's just look at the resume of the last Supreme Court justice picked by Donald Trump, Amy Coney Barrett. She does not have remotely the experience. The resumes don't even compare. Yet and still, she was everything that the Republicans ever dreamed of. And Ketanji Brown Jackson, because let's look at the key things. They say she's too radical. They say she can't define the definition of a woman. We'll get to that little straw man, that little red herring that seems to have so many people caught up. Like the most important thing of today is whether or not a person identifies as a man or a woman, like that. Never mind climate change. Never mind Vladimir Putin invading Ukraine. Never mind January 6ers still attempting to overthrow this government because they're just mad that their Führer, Donald Trump, did not win. Never mind all these things that are actually wrong in a society. They want you to be concerned over whether or not a person identifies as a woman or a man. That's the number one thing, because that's all they have. That's literally all they have. And their white supremacy. That's it. But it just reeks of hypocrisy simply because of, well, if they talk about qualifications, if they talk about radicalism, there is no one unqualified more than Amy Coney Barrett, and no one more radical than literally every single justice that Donald Trump appointed. David, if we have that clip, I want the people to clearly see how this Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, simply did not know the First Amendment. And that's the first question on any test if you want to become a Supreme Court Justice. Let's take a look in.
What are the 5 freedoms of the First Amendment?
Speech, religion, press, assembly. Speech, press, religion, assembly. I don't know. What am I missing?
Redress or protest.
Okay.
What are...
And there it is, folks. She's sitting. Amy Coney Barrett is sitting on the Supreme Court right now, right? She's sitting there as if she is the most qualified person to hold that position. Yet the Republican senators who lauded her, who loved her, who praised her, who showered her with adoration, who's made her seem as though she was the most qualified woman in the history of women to be on the Supreme Court. Now look at Ketanji Brown Jackson, who Amy Coney Barrett can't even stand in a sentence, right? She can't even come in a sentence after a comma after Ketanji Brown Jackson. And all of these hypocrisies are so glaring, it's laughable. However, here's the flip side of it. This is how the United States of America works. Period. Full stop. I can point out the hypocrisies, but the fact of the matter is it's working exactly the way it's designed. It is designed so that a Black person who has 10 times the qualifications is put right next, is juxtaposed right next to someone who shouldn't even be in the conversation. Let's be clear. Over and over again in this country, we have seen the height of Black excellence have to stand next to white mediocrity. And it's not because of the content of our character, as Brother Mac will let us know. It is simply because of the character, the color of our skin. That's why. And that's the way America was designed. All right, let me get to a couple of particular details before we move on to the next story. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is expected to be confirmed as the first Black woman Supreme Court justice this week after a bipartisan group of senators voted on Monday to advance her nomination. After the Senate Judiciary Committee voted 11-11, deadlock, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called for a vote to break the deadlock and send her nomination to the floor. Every Democrat and 3 Republican senators, Susan Collins of Maine, Mitt Romney of Utah, and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, voted in support of Ketanji Brown Jackson. So there is bipartisan support. Mitt Romney trying to get on the record that he might actually have some decency in him. You know, he's getting up old in age, and Lisa Murkowski, all the rest of them, they're probably trying to just have it on their record that they aren't the worst Republicans and that they could bring themselves to vote for a Black justice. However, we're grateful that they did because we do need this. I want us to check in on the health of Clarence Thomas. Anyway, moving on. The GOP is leading a lawsuit against, now we covered this, Title 42. Rebecca Zoris covered this quite significantly, quite in depth. The Biden administration, on the heels of the report that there were multiple Russian refugees, asylum seekers at the Mexican border who were permitted into the United States despite Title 42, which is the action that prevented asylum seekers from getting into the United States because of COVID-19 that was signed by Donald Trump. Now, on the heels of those Russian asylum seekers, now these are dissenters. These are people who are fighting against Vladimir Putin. Those asylum seekers came to the Mexican-American border and were permitted access despite the Haitian refugees that we saw there earlier this year being chased away with whips. Now, on the heels of that story, Joe Biden has decided to do away with Title 42, and the Republican Party, the GOP, is not having it. Fox News reports that on April 4th, 3 Republican-led states announced their lawsuit recently filed against the Biden administration for halting Title 42. Title 42 is the public health order put into place during the onset of COVID-19, and it has since been used to expel migrants at the southern border between the United States and Mexico. As we said, we saw the whips. They literally brought out whips to whip Haitian asylum seekers at the border based on Title 42. According to Fox News, the lawsuit has been filed by the attorney generals of Missouri, Arizona, and Louisiana. Arizona Attorney General Mac Brnovich went on Fox News and Friends and said, quote, "We want to stop the Biden administration from rescinding Title 42 because it may be one of the most boneheaded decisions of this administration. I'm doing everything I can to hold the Biden administration accountable and stop them from destroying our southern border." Let's take a look. This is the thing. Before we watch any clips, the Biden administration does not have its hands clean as it pertains to the cruelty at the border. This is established. We have the video of ICE agents corralling, whipping, and treating Haitian asylum seekers like animals. This was during the Biden administration. And that's not enough for the Republicans. That's the gag, right? It's one thing. It's one thing for the Biden administration to carry on and to continue Title 42 when they did. They continued it long enough to get rid of the Haitian refugees, right? They continued it. They continued the cruelty of the Trump administration in many ways, but that is not enough. See, when Biden said, okay, we'll do away with Title 42, not particularly happy about how it happened, but fine, let's do away with Title 42. And the next time asylum seekers are at the border, let's treat them the same way, regardless of their skin color. However, the Republican Party is saying, no, we need to maintain this level. And here's the thing. The Attorney General who filed this lawsuit did not root this, not even in COVID-19. Right? Because the reason for it was never COVID-19 to begin with. The reason for Title 42 was put on the books was not for COVID-19 because the Republican Party certainly does not care. They are pro-COVID. The Republican Party is pro-COVID. They are maximizing the amount. I mean, let's just be real. This entire country is pro-COVID at this point. I mean, like if you go anywhere, what variant are we at to? But BA 1.2, no one's wearing a mask. All the vaccine mandates, all the mandates have been repealed across the country. So, of course, this country is doing everything that it can to exacerbate COVID-19 with the help of the Republican Party and particularly Donald Trump with everything that he did to put us on this trajectory. However, that is not the reason. They're not concerned about the spread of COVID-19. They're not concerned. They're not concerned with protecting the border in the sense that Title 42 was created to do. That lets you know that Title 42 was actually sent there simply to be able to hold up the racist policies at our border and to blame it on COVID-19. Meanwhile, the United States of America is literally doing everything it can to spread COVID-19. I'm sorry. There's just no way other to put it. If you look at the number of people who are dying on a regular basis, you can't tell me Title 42 was ever about COVID-19. We'll keep our eye on this story. It's an interesting turn. We are definitely looking at the Biden administration and going to be calling them out. And in any way we can hold them accountable, we most certainly will hold them accountable. But Title 42 was never about COVID-19 to begin with, and it should never have been used by either administration as a racist tool at the border. But again, as we see, this is how America works. And if you want to see mediocre, if you want to see highly unqualified, if you want to see exactly how pathetic the Republican delegation actually is, oh, don't get me wrong, Republicans are well-funded, they're well-organized, but they're pretty pathetic when you actually consider the clowns, the village idiots that they're putting on the international stage. And they just could not get enough of that idiot from Wasilla. Sarah Palin is back in the game. President Donald Trump announces his endorsement of Sarah Palin in a memo. Palin tells Sean Hannity that she never went anywhere and that she would serve if asked. And I'm guessing she's figured out now it's the time for her to come onto the stage and get a little bit more notoriety so she can make some money and pay some bills. But I digress. Palin, who was John McCain's running mate in the 2008 presidential election, proved to be the downfall of John McCain on top of other things. But she never went away, and she was always given the consolation prize of a mediocre white conservative woman. And here she is back in the spotlight being supported by Donald Trump. Let's take a look at this first clip. This is from Sarah Palin talking with Sean Hannity over her campaign.
So you're going to have to make up your mind fast. Where are you in this process?
Well, you know, I never went anywhere. I feel like I still am in the arena, and I've been one to say that you don't need an office, you don't need a title to get out there and fight for what's right and to make a difference. And I believe that I've been able to live that out. However, there is a time and a season for everything. And if this season is one where I need a more official platform to have, then yeah, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, because we need people who have cojones. We need people like Donald Trump who has nothing to lose, like me. We got nothing to lose, and no more of this vanilla milquetoast, namby-pamby, wussy-pussy stuff that's been going on. That's why our country is in the mess that we're in, because people who run for office, they look at it as a job or as a business instead of as a calling, as some.
I don't have a Sarah Palin interpretation yet. One day I will, but I promise you, somebody watching Fox News is looking at Sarah Palin saying, I'm so happy she's back. the world is going to be a better place. Like, she's really going to get in there and figure out all of these complicated questions from Wasilla, why don't you? Here's a clip of some of her gaffes. Well, actually, this is a 2016 clip of Sarah Palin. And this is, I'm not going to describe it. Let's just take a look at Sarah Palin in action.
Halfway through her speech, did you ask if you had stumbled into some bad acid?
Well, the question was who had taken the bad acid.
Oh, so you thought that maybe it appeared that
she was not fully. If the opposite of dissociative is associative, she was not fully associative. Let's say that it was not a fully coherent speech. Let's put
so maybe we're wrong. Maybe we should listen again, and maybe we shouldn't be so condescending, because this could be the most articulate moment of the campaign.
Ladies and gentlemen, Winston Churchill, 1940.
Illegal immigrants, welcoming them in, even inducing and seducing them with gift baskets. Come on over the border and here's a gift basket of teddy bears and soccer balls. Our kids and our grandkids, they'll never know then what it is to be rewarded for that entrepreneurial spirit that God creates within us in order to work and to produce and to strive and to thrive and to really be alive. Wisconsin, Reagan saved the hog. Here, your Harley Davidson. It was Reagan who saved that. In the establishment, maybe they're going to start a new hashtag movement, a hashtag Never Reagan. They don't like that.
Was that more white?
That's actually pretty coherent. Like that first clip was from Morning Joe. For those of you who are listening in the listening audience, that was Morning Joe and Mika Brzezinski and the rest of their crew analyzing one of the speeches from Sarah Palin. Actually, I think that was rather coherent when you consider what we're dealing with. Here's the worst of Sarah Palin.
I'll try to find you some and I'll bring them to you. They're our next door neighbors, and you can actually see Russia from land here in Alaska.
Well, explain to me why that enhances your foreign policy credentials.
Well, it certainly does, because our next door neighbors are foreign countries.
What newspapers and magazines did you regularly read before you were tapped for this to stay informed and to understand the world?
I've read most of them, again, with a great appreciation for the press, for the media.
Like what one specifically, I'm curious that you...
all of them, any of them.
Are struggling under the weight of the wrong mortgage. Protesters have the courage and the honor of thanking our veterans for giving them the right to protest. Okay, I'm doing that.
Good, really. We've got to start rating in the spending. We have got to jumpstart these energy projects. We've got to start rating in the spending. We have got to...
I've been hearing about his Senate speeches since I was in like second grade.
When you have a 72-year-old running mate, is that a kind of a risky thing to say? It's insinuating that Joe Biden's been around a while?
Oh, no, it's nothing negative at all.
All right. That's Sarah Palin. I'm not sure if many of you were around. I don't know how, what demographic is watching this early in the morning right now, but if you were around in 2008, you cannot forget the first step towards the level of idiocracy that we're in now was Sarah Palin. Before Sarah Palin, the Republican Party tried to pretend as though they were intellectually rigorous. When they got Sarah Palin, they said, oh, no, this is even better. We don't have to pretend to be intellectually rigorous. Let's just be idiots and watch all of Fox News come and support us. Now, it wasn't enough for John McCain to win that year, but it certainly was enough 8 years later for Donald Trump to ascend to the highest office in the world and him having the intellectual capacity of a gnat and him being championed. See, I'm having fun calling these people idiots and dummies because I want the permanent record and servers, wherever this is recorded, I want it to be recorded that there were Americans who understood exactly how dumb this whole thing is. Like, we get it. America is already an idiocracy. We're already led by Neanderthals who have no heart, no consciousness, no morality. The only thing that drives them is power. And in order for them to pull it off, they have had to dumb down this country to levels never before seen in my lifetime. I mean, we're really dealing with the best of times and worst of times in terms of information. These people have all the information of the world at their disposal, at their fingertips, yet they're acting as if they're cave people. They're acting with the integrity of snakes. My apologies to snakes. They're acting with no other concern than their own economic and political power, and they don't care how many people are hurt in the progress. They will put up people like Sarah Palin. They will put up people like Amy Coney Barrett. They will put up people like Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, Donald J. Trump, who ascended to the highest office of the land. And I think we can all agree that when we talk about failing upwards, when we talk about people who are in positions that they're not qualified for, we certainly know that we're going to find the best examples of the worst leadership coming from the other side of the aisle. Meanwhile, the friends on our side of the aisle aren't paying attention that there's a coup going on. That's a whole nother conversation. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we have a whole lot of other stories to go. Team members of the team will be joining us throughout this morning. The Benjamin Dixon Morning Show will be back right after this.
This week in Minneapolis, we're following an anti-Asian hate movement. There have been dozens of people who have stepped forward, not just in honor of the victims who were killed a year ago during the spa shooting, but to really talk about the intersectionality of the movements between those fighting for Black liberation and those just all the way in general fighting against racism. I want you guys to go ahead and take a look at a clip from a march this weekend here in Minneapolis.
And we are called together to stand united against all that is coming against hate. Hate is something we were never meant to hold. It is our kryptonite as humans. And so together we come together, we stand together, we march together, saying that ain't right. When Asians are under attack, what do we do? When Asians are under attack, what do we do?
I was in 9th grade when I first remembered a man commenting on my body and calling me all sorts of objectifying comments. I would routinely see that man on the sidewalk near my house every day, And I remember coming back from school, feeling knots in my stomach, wondering, was he going to be there again? Was he going to approach me? Was something going to happen? And I was lucky that we never got into any sort of physical altercation. But Asian femmes and Asian women and queer folks shouldn't have to be lucky to be safe in their own neighborhoods from harassment and violence. This country has been built on a culture of hate and violence since the start. This violence is historical, long-standing, and ongoing. It's deeply embedded in our policies and our cultural attitudes. Violence against Asian Americans wasn't just in those moments that I had with that man on my block. That same anti-Asian violence was when I heard story after story growing up of immigration raids in the Asian immigrant communities in New York where I grew up at, where people have to wait 20 or more years to reunite with their families because they're not able to get visas. So I want us to think, as we honor the lives of people here today, to also think about the beauty and joy that we have in our community, that we are going to keep fighting and building towards a world where queer folks, Asian femmes, Asian women, Asian elders feel safe, where families get to be together and they're able to thrive together. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it?
My curiosity when we published this story, Ben, was the comments. When I went through and I really started looking at the comments and people's responses to this story, I was a bit disheartened. There was actually a lot of people who talked about how there also is anti-Blackness in the Asian community, pointing to specific cases where there was, I think, a 6-year-old boy who was killed by a Black boy killed by an Asian neighbor, pointing to, the officer Tu Tao who didn't intervene in the murder of George Floyd, pointing to even how some Asian folks can be considered as white passing. And it saddened me because when we approached this story, we were looking at the intersectionality of the movements between the Asian community and those fighting for Black liberation. But the audience's response to it pointed out actually the fractures within those movements. So I just usually I have a pretty good gauge of how people are going to respond. But this caught me off guard a little bit.
Yeah. Good morning, Georgia. It was always great to see you. I have to say it didn't catch me off guard because that's literally what I was going to talk about from the same perspective that you're holding, right? It's very true that there is anti-Black hate everywhere on the face of this planet, including our Asian brothers and sisters. No doubt. It is also true that, honestly, in the Black community, there are more Asian Americans making money off the Black community than the Black community. Just the stores that are owned, they're not owned by Black people in the hood, right? And these are the perspectives that you're going to hear in these comment sections. But here's the thing. We have a far greater evil that we are all collectively fighting against, because just as that Asian officer didn't do anything to save George Floyd, there was a Black officer who was there that didn't do anything to save George Floyd. There is Black officers who have been a part of this policing system that has cracked down. So I'm not trying to answer one whataboutism with another whataboutism. I just want to say, isn't it sad how easily divided all of the people who have something in common, white supremacy, our fight against white supremacy is in common, but it is so easily to divide us. And I'm sure that's the root of a lot of the comments that you read.
Yeah, absolutely. And that division in many ways prevents us from uniting and having the economical force that is required to tackle white supremacy and capitalism, right? And so I think to be conscious of that and to engage in conversations where, these concerns that people are expressing, it's not that they're invalid or inaccurate, but we have to create spaces where those conversations can develop into solutions and understandings, right? And to also understand the difference in generations. When you look at the case where the 6-year-old Black child was shot by his Asian neighbor, there's also some generational differences. When you look at a firstborn generation into this country, their culture and values are different, and their understanding of race and white supremacy is very different. And so when you actually do engage in some of these conversations and you start talking to second and third generation, Asian Americans, their lived experiences are very different than their parents or grandparents who came here without any understanding of what white supremacy is, or the history behind race and the role that they play and where they fit into it. And so it's very easy for families who are not from America to be indoctrined into this, caste system, right? And not even really see their role in it.
Mm-hmm. No, because it's easy. You know what it is, Georgia? I think every human has a propensity to look for someone they can look down on. And if we as individuals aren't, zen or mature enough to realize that we need coalitions to fight this greater evil underneath which all of us toil. And I don't mean to try to sound poetic, but I'm going to be honest with you. If we cannot unify with people of other races, other orientations, other genders, if we cannot really have a level of coexistence where we can cooperate with people who don't look like us, think like us, talk like us, believe like us, love like us, then we will never beat white supremacy. And I'm sorry, I've got my eyes gunning for white supremacy.
Yeah.
Not the Asian community.
It's something that we share, I think, a common ground we stand on. So I'm with you. And from my understanding, you're tracking a story this morning as well.
Absolutely. And there's so many issues that we do need unification around. One of those issues is absolutely the fact that the IPCC is issuing a dire warning on climate emergencies. The UN's climate body issues its final report for the next decade. The world is on a fast track to climate disaster, according to the UN Secretary General. This clip is a little lengthy, but one of the things that we absolutely have to talk about, Georgia, is in the next 50 years or less, if we are not prepared, all of these conversations are for naught because we're destroying our environment. Let's take a look at it.
The jury has reached the verdict, and it is damning. This report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is a litany of broken climate promises.
In his typically blunt language, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres was withering towards the world's leaders, calling today's UN report an indictment of their inaction against climate change. The third and final part of the latest IPCC report, written by hundreds of scientists from around the world, finds that greenhouse gas emissions from 2010 to 2019 were at their highest level in human history. At this pace, the planet will blow past the goal of keeping warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius in just 8 years. The UN report argues that without substantive, sweeping changes, warming will make life on Earth increasingly dangerous and deadly. While the report cited some increase in positive climate policies, it said much more were needed. This report is principally focused on the concrete actions that nations can take to reduce the emissions that are driving climate change. Those include a rapid turn to cleaner ways of generating electricity and using it as the principal source of power in our buildings and our vehicles. Adapting the infrastructure of our cities, where over half the world's population lives, to make them more efficient. Harnessing the ability of the land, forests, waterways, and how we farm to release less carbon and store more of it.
Human activities got us into this problem, and human agency can actually get us out of it again. It's not all lost. We really have the chance to do something.
So, given those warnings, how likely is it that world leaders will, in fact, do something? Dave Roberts writes the newsletter called Volts.
The tools we need to solve the problem, to mitigate the problem,
are growing ever more sophisticated and ever more cheap and ever more plentiful. So the need to do something and our ability to do something are both rising alongside one another. And the biggest single item on the list is clean electrification. And the tools for electrification, which are mainly wind and solar power, batteries, and then electrolysis to create green hydrogen. All four of those technologies are on what are called learning curves, which means every time the global deployment of those technologies doubles, their price drops by a predictable amount. If they just stay on those learning curves that they're on now, they are going to dominate the landscape within.
So, Georgia, listening to that full report from PBS NewsHour, one of the things that troubles me about this report is the fact that we have the capacity to address it right now. And I think this falls along the lines of everything else, all the other absurdities that we see day in and day out. There are problems, there are existential problems. Like, we're dealing with the entirety of this planet, and we have gotten to a fever pitch in this society where, despite the evidence, despite the scientific evidence, the conversation around climate change has been so politicized that we can't even take advantage of good economic opportunities. There's money to be made in green energy, but the oil companies have so much control over this country that we can't even make that cash.
Yeah, it's
and save the environment.
I mean, it's self-sabotage. When you really think about the way in which we are living on this earth, the way in which some companies have structured their wealth, it is 100% self-sabotage. The best thing that came out of the pandemic was there not being traffic, there not being pollution, and the earth being able to breathe for the first time since the inception of vehicles, right? But instead of companies saying, you know, this is actually better for our bottom line if we're not in these buildings, it's better for the earth if we're not requiring our employees to travel and commute to these buildings. Let's just let people continue to work from home. Instead of that being the norm, we've seen corporations rush to try to get their employees back into offices. And in return, I mean, yeah, we are back on a fast track to destroy the one common thing that we all have to share. And so it's frustrating that capitalism has created not just a nation, but really a global economy that prioritizes the bottom line over, you know, everyone's earth. This, you know, Ben, we've talked about this. We've looked at corporations who, instead of fixing equipment that could prevent an oil spill, they decided it would actually be cheaper to get the fine from the oil spill than it would be to fix the equipment. You know, these are decisions that we've seen be made over and over and over again, and it's infuriating.
Yes, it is so infuriating, Georgia, because I hate to say this again, but we're talking about the only planet we have. And we're talking about the wealthiest organizations on the face of the planet having such a stranglehold on the entirety of the planet that we cannot do what is economically best as well as environmentally best, because they don't want to go through the hassle of changing the oil companies. They don't want to go through the hassle of changing their infrastructure, the costs associated with changing their infrastructure, right? Here's the thing. They always tell us everywhere we go, school, you know, businesses, teachers, they always tell us to enjoy delayed gratification, right? Don't take what you could have today so that you can have something better tomorrow. And we're dealing with an entire industry who has the capacity and the technology to make trillions of dollars in the future off of green energy, but they want that profit today. So they're not going to change their oil rigs. They're not going to change to wind power. They're not going to change to solar power. They're not going to do any of that because they want their profits today. Meanwhile, they're telling us to wait for delayed gratification. The gag is, if we wait too long, we won't even have a planet to enjoy.
That's right. Well, and to your point, Yeah, we have all these corporations who are doing just that. And then we have political leaders who are doing nothing, who are not, giving executive orders. Think about this. During the pandemic, you had governors who issued executive orders in their states to shut everything down. You had presidential orders that came through to shut everything down. There is a way, to force these corporations to do something different. When you look at the greater good of everyone, if that is compromised, if we are moving in a direction where in 10 years we're going to be in a crisis environmentally, why can't governors, why can't the president issue an executive order for something to change? Why, if they can give tax write-offs for huge developers to come in and build 5,000 apartments in a neighborhood where nobody wants them, if corporations can get those tax write-offs, then why can't corporations also get tax write-offs for expenses associated with changing their infrastructure to make it more environmentally sound? I mean, there's so many different things that can be offered. And not to say that these corporations would even want to do that, right? We're making an assumption there. But once you start issuing executive orders because you're acknowledging the danger that everyone globally is in, that's when you start putting some of these CEOs with their back against the wall and forcing them to do something. Because to your point, Ben, we do only have one planet, but a lot of these CEOs, oh no, they have access to all of the planets. We only have access to one.
That's right. That's right.
But they're investing
they're trying to get out of here.
They're investing in infrastructure to get up out of here. So they're not as worried about it.
Right. Which is extremely foolish, which lets me know that we're dealing with irrational actors. We're dealing with people who have money and either the intellectual incapacity or just morally flagrantly wrong. I mean, they either don't know, don't care, or both. At the end of the day, though, the people have to care for ourselves, because as Jeff Bezos, and we're going to talk about him in a minute, as Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and the rest of the oligarchs fly off into space, they're going to leave us here to burn. I mean, honestly, I have seen, I know you're in the north, but here in the south, like I've seen spring and fall come 3 times this year. Trees start blossoming, and then it gets cold again and they start dying. And then it comes back, blossoming again, and then dying. And I'm like, no, this is not a normal pattern for this part of the South. Like you go to South Florida, maybe. You go to Georgia, no, right? That's not a standard pattern, but it's going to get worse. The weather events are going to get worse, right? The intensity of the hurricanes, the intensities of the storms. I mean, we had tornadoes, right? Like normally tornadoes are is very much in the South, a Southern thing, but like in January, like that's not normal. And we're going to see these strange events happening because the overall environment is collapsing around us, and it is man-made. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on this one too long, but I just think of any of the things that we cover on a regular basis, the one thing that could put us all out of the game very soon is the climate. And it seems to be the one thing, Georgia, that they're ignoring.
Absolutely. And, I don't think that we talk about environmental issues enough, especially when I examine mainstream media and their role in the environmental crisis. Even, going back a decade ago, you didn't see mainstream media really talk about climate reality or, climate issues at all. And then if they did, it was like, oh, we have to talk about both sides. We have to talk about this as though it exists. And then we also have to hear from people who believe it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And when you're and to me, people talked about Trump being the thing that set off this misinformation culture or, this distrust for the media. This culture where you have a group of people who just refuse to believe the truth, right? People who refuse to get vaccinated, people who don't believe in CRT, people who think that President Biden stole the election, like all of these, really far right viewpoints. But you could go back 10 years and just look at conversations around the climate and see that there was already soil for those seeds to be planted. There was already a portion of our population that was really in disbelief about what was happening globally. And all of the signs that people are looking at these huge icebergs that are melting, in Antarctica, melting, and then like people trying to say, like, do you realize how much extra water is going to be in the flooding, and, pointing to all these things. And there was just this gross denial of what was happening globally with the environment. And the media played a significant role in that, because instead of just sharing that information, that scientific data, that had to be juxtaposed against someone who was saying, oh, they're lying. Oh, it's not real. They're exaggerating. That's not, just nonsense. And so now fast forward today, where we're in even, more danger of, of our society, our environment collapsing, and you still have this rhetoric.
That's right. George, I'm about to explode over here because you reminded me of about 10 years ago. I was living in Boston and I was listening to NPR, bless y'all. And they were talking about a report from the NASA climate scientists. And do you know who they put on to juxtapose these scientists? Ted Cruz. And you know what his qualifications were? I swear to God, the qualifications that he announced, and they announced, I think it was Steve Inskeep, matter of fact. It's coming back to me. Steve Inskeep. Everybody knows his voice on NPR. He let Ted Cruz get on that network and say, because his parents were engineers. Because Ted Cruz's parents were engineers, he was a qualified juxtaposition to contradict the science that came from NASA. The media is as complicit with this as the people who pay scientists to come out with false reports. I'm sorry, that's a whole nother conversation. I'll digress here, George. Thanks so much. I didn't realize I was so passionate about this one. It kind of, because I think about my kids. My kids aren't going to have a home soon.
That's right. You have to be passionate about this. And that's why I said we don't talk about it enough, because I feel like when I start talking about it, there's a large portion of my audience that is like, okay, what are you talking about? Why are you talking about this? This matters not just for our children, but for us. If we don't intervene, if we don't start putting systems in place, if we don't make green energy cool and the thing, we're not going to be here in 20 years, in 30 years. We have to start to prioritize caring for our environment, or we're not going to have a place to live, let alone our children to live.
And I think we have to do, like you said, we have to prioritize arguing about this and putting it out on Front Street and making sure our audience cares about it as much as we all need to care about it, Georgia.
That's right.
Well, Georgia, listen, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for hanging out with me this morning. We'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Stick around for more on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. It is Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. I am excited this morning to be joined by a candidate for Senate in the state of Ohio. Now, we have been covering Ohio's elections for some time now. I have been paying much attention to the 11th Congressional District, but this morning I'm especially excited to welcome to the show Morgan Harper, who is a consumer protection attorney, previously with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, community organizer, and candidate to represent all of Ohio in the United States Senate in 2022. Good morning, Morgan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
The pleasure is ours. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your campaign, and what makes you want to step out into the fray and lead in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I find myself in politics altogether just has to do with some of my early life experiences. I was born in Columbus, Ohio, given up for adoption. I lived in a foster home as an infant and then was adopted and raised by my mom, and who was a public school teacher. And like a lot of people, we went through a lot early on, and I just saw the importance at a young age of having even one parent with a stable union protected job and a strong community around us that put me in a position to get scholarships to go to places like Princeton University, Stanford Law School, and really instilled in me this focus on making sure that everybody gets a fair shot. That's what I define as the American dream. And when I got to Washington, I saw special interests had been selling us out. At the CFPB, we were trying to work against that, but we had a lot of forces working the other direction in Congress. And that's when I really made the connection that we have to have more people that want to serve that are going to U.S. Congress. And when we look at what's happening in Ohio, I mean, I think we're seeing the end result of a lot of failed economic policy, in particular with the level of gun violence that we're seeing, the opioid fentanyl epidemic that is just ravaging the state, and jobs that aren't keeping up with the cost of living. And so Ohio needs a new path forward. That's what I hear everywhere I go across the state. And I want to be able to help to lead us there in the United States Senate.
Absolutely. You are a consumer protection attorney, previously with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That is the bureau that was the brainchild, I believe, of Senator Elizabeth Warren. Tell us a little bit about your time there at the bureau. I heard you mention once you got to DC, you saw how much the people were being sold out. Is that the same time you were part of the bureau? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started in the Office of Regulations. We worked on rules that regulated things like the prepaid card market. We saw how things could go awry there with like Rush Card, for example, and folks not getting access to their money, being charged fees unexpectedly or higher than it seemed were appropriate. Going after the mortgage industry that had caused the financial crisis, Wells Fargo, that was opening up fake bank accounts in people's names. Real brazen activity because folks in these large corporations thought they could get away with it. And but what I saw in Congress is that while we were doing that work, there were bills that were trying to limit CFPB's authority from folks sitting on the House Financial Services Committee, for example, that are tasked with actually overseeing and guiding what's happening at the CFPB. And so, that connection of money in politics, the lobbying that's happening, and the intensifying of the political dynamics in Congress, the rise of the Tea Party, that we are also no longer dealing with folks who are of different political parties and policy views. There are people that are in Congress that their only goal is to obstruct, protect the ability for a small number of people, large corporations, to make a lot of money, while the rest of us, and particularly a lot of people throughout the state of Ohio, are not able to get by. And so, being at the CFPB, being in Washington, seeing firsthand what is possible when you have people who are in these institutions who are trying to do good, allows me to authentically make the case to people is we shouldn't be giving up on government right now, but we should be giving up on people who are completely bought out and making sure that we're electing folks who are always on the side of working people.
No, I love the sound of that. Talk to us about Ohio. I am from the 11th district, or at least my family is from the 11th district. Let me say that clear before my cousins call me and tell me I'm not from Cleveland. Okay. My family is from Cleveland, and I love to spend time up there, but there's a lot of empty warehouses. There's a lot of unemployment. There's a lot of just like dilapidated, there's blight. I mean, and I'm sure that you could find that anywhere in the Rust Belt. What do you plan on doing once you get to the Senate to address some of those core issues there in Ohio?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, what's happening in the 11th district, it is happening all over the state, even in places like Columbus that are considered, the economic jewel of the state at this point. That's one of the few places that is growing, that there are pockets where that growth has not reached everyone. And so what the agenda that I'm putting forward, kind of trying to guarantee opportunity for everyone, regardless of where you live in the state, is trying to spur investment and incentives that are going to build out the clean energy sector, create higher paying jobs. There's been a lot of jobs created over the past 20 years in Ohio, but a lot of them are in the retail sector. They don't pay a lot. You have no job security, and it's not really moving people towards a career that's going to sustain them as individuals or families. So we need to have leadership at the federal level to help spur the creation of better jobs that are also going to take on the climate crisis. And then we also need to make sure that we have people that are prepared to work in those industries that we're creating. And that's where it's so important to have things like Medicare for all, including mental health care that is going to address what really is a crisis situation all over the state of Ohio. It's one of the most common things that's been coming up is that we have a lot of young people, but really folks of all ages that are not okay. And you shouldn't have to jump through a lot of hurdles to be able to get access to the care that you need. It should not depend on what your job is, how much money you have. We should just have people get access to healthcare, Medicare for all, absolutely essential to be able to build towards being a state of the future. And that's the thing. It's like there is so much work to be done. I mean, just this past weekend, I wasn't in the 11th district, but another part of Northeast Ohio outside of the Youngstown area. And I'm getting a tour of historic structures, right? Historic structures that was workforce housing that was built to support the steel mills and the workers that were going to be there that have been abandoned for at least 40 years, right? Yeah. And that now look like a war zone. And what is the plan? So this is about leadership. This is about coming with ideas and then getting the investment at the federal level to be able to put people to work in jobs that are going to be able to pay them enough.
And I heard you earlier mention union jobs over the weekend. We know Amazon Labor Union, the first labor union to form with one of the biggest employers in the world, quite frankly. And we've had a chance to talk with the young man, Christian Smalls, who helped organize it. What are your thoughts on supporting unions and this move for Amazon to finally have their first union at the Staten Island warehouse?
I'm a huge supporter of it. I mean, it was so exciting to see that what they were able to accomplish there on Staten Island. And you're right. I mean, Amazon is one of the most dominant companies, largest companies on the entire planet. And their goal appears to be only to grow more dominant. And so, we have to have strong union protections. That's why I support the PRO Act. We need to be supporting folks who are putting themselves out there, which is a real act of courage to be able to face up against a giant and try to organize your workplace. And I'm inspired by what they're doing, and we need more of it everywhere. But, and this is another issue I've been working on the last couple of years, but we need to acknowledge that it is going to be hard to take on these giants when they have this much power. And so that's why we need leadership at the federal level to address that concentrated power that they've accumulated, the predatory tactics that they employ to push out competition, and why I've been advocating for breaking them up.
Well, now, hey, you're speaking my language now, Morgan. I'm very much on board with that because of the role that some of these corporations are replacing. They're replacing the responsibility that the government has to the people, and they have grown. You would expect, right? If the government relinquishes power to corporations to do the job that the government is supposed to do, then of course those corporations are going to grow. And we've seen that throughout American history. Please tell me what you're going to do about breaking some of these monsters up as we get ready to get out of here.
Yeah, and what the last step to that is then having this power and using their money to then bribe off our politicians to make sure that nothing changes. And in the dominance that Amazon has, it's in every sector of the economy. So that's where we need to have better competition policy. We need to be enforcing, refreshing our antitrust law to make sure that we have a truly free market, that we have the ability for workers to negotiate, for small businesses to be able to compete, all of that. And so I'm really focused on having that as part of the agenda, strong competition policy, antitrust law enforcement, to make sure that we don't allow these types of giants to exploit people, because that's a lot of what's been happening.
Absolutely. Morgan Harper, candidate for Senate in Ohio. Please tell everyone how they can find out more information about you and support your campaign.
MorganHarper.org, MH4OH on all social platforms. We are in the final stretch here. Our primary is on May 3rd. Early vote starts today. Anything you all can do to help support, much appreciated. And it's just going to be all going towards direct voter contact at this point.
Absolutely. Morgan Harper, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck with your campaign.
Really appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, like it or not, is about to go down.
Yeah, I don't think they know that's my word. I don't think they know that's my word. Yeah, that's my, hold up. They gonna say what they said, but so I skip straight ahead to the bread part. Top out, I'm cool on the chit chat. With the kid, know I got to get paid. They gonna say what they said, but so I skip straight ahead to the bread part. Top out, I'm cool on the chit chat. With the kid, know I got to get paid. Keep it real with you, I've been in the field in position. Look, hey, I've been trill, you can tell by how I feel when you with me. Look, wave, tell me, can you slide for a real one? Slide for me, slide for me. Can you slide for a real one? Can you slide for me, slide for me? Can you slide for a real one? Can you slide for a real one? Can't tell me nothing, I'm flexing stunting. Eating all my veggies in my pocket, half an onion. And that pack smell like a Funyun. Trump be beating, shit be humming. You can hear me round the corner before you ever see me coming. And they know just how we coming. Pants drumming. She gon' bust it open way before I finish thumbing. I can put you on some paper, proper play and teach you something. Got my stones on Himalaya, know I'm out your sucker ducking. Ain't no need for that discussion, bluffing with the game. About to build a couple million, came with nothing but my name. I'ma twist it, flip it, stick it like a bop it. Tell them stop it, all them haters out of pocket. Let me plug it like a socket, baby. We gonna say what they said, part. So I skip straight ahead to the bread part. Top out, I'm cool on the chit chat. With the kid, know I got to get paid. They gonna say what they said, part. So I skip straight ahead to the bread part. Top out, I'm cool on the chit chat. With the kid, know I got to get paid. Wave, tell me, can you slide for a real one? Slide for me, slide for me. Can you slide for a real one? Can you slide for me, slide for me? Can you slide for a real one? Can you slide for baby, say I make him nervous. Maybe cause I'm real on the surface. Maybe cause I'm 10 down where the turf is. Don't get lost in those facades on the guys. You know ain't nobody perfect. I just put the work in, I know what my worth is. I'm living lavish, I'm flossing, bossing, and bagging up cash off the passion. Out here with my niggas, AV to the casket. We reckless, stay in your lane. I'm on gas till somebody cut the brakes. Cutting off these haters in the heads of the snakes. Just been in the plan, but you catching on late. And she just sent the emoji, said she wetter than a lake. So I better not flake, take a break, say word. Hit me when you through with that, then we can shift again. My schedule been clear. These niggas see me, they mad like I'm one of their peers. I put that on Sita, so I'm sure it's abundantly clear. I'm hella big on the said what I said. Eyes low off the legal and the red web. Put the leg room and the roof gone. Man, I came a long way from them deals off the Groupon. Right? They gonna say what they said, part. So I skip straight ahead to the bread part. Top out, I'm cool on the chit chat. Fuck with the kid, know I got to get paid. They gonna say what they said, part. So I skip straight ahead to the bread part. Top out, I'm cool on the chit chat. Fuck with the kid, know I got to get paid. Keep it real with you, I've been in the field in position. Yeah, yeah. I've been trail, you could tell by how I feel when you with me. Yeah. Tell me, can you slide for me? Can you slide for a real one? Yeah, yeah. Tell me, can you slide for a real one? Yeah.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning and welcome to Like It or Not. Where we're free to tell the truth.
Well, we're free to, are we good?
Yeah, we good. I see you. You're looking good.
Okay, no, like,
and not care who doesn't like it. What's going on, Rebecca Azor? How you doing, sis?
Nothing. I'm good. It's just super duper dark. It's a lot of thunder happening behind me, so it just caught me off guard.
Oh.
Yeah. No, good morning. How y'all doing?
We're doing good, Rebecca. Good to see you this morning. DJ Exclusive is out this morning, helping he's feeling better. Good morning to him. And good morning again to everyone on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and over on Act TV, acttv.com/join. Sis, how was your weekend?
How was my weekend? Oh, see,
I saw how your weekend was, by the way. I follow you on Instagram, so I already know at least how one of your days was.
Because if you follow me on Instagram, you get like everything in my stories. But yeah, my weekend was it was just that Saturday. That's, when you're brunching over 30, you can't I
I just
can't brunch too much.
You got to give yourself time to recover, not because you're old, but because, hey, you got to make sure you got responsibilities. Okay, you got all of that. So you know that, like, if you get one thing wrong, you get up and you are messed up. This is not when we're in our 20s, where you can get up and roll to that job that you really don't give a damn about, and just be like, I'm just 25. I mean, I can go live with my mom. Kind of those things right there. No, you got kids at home. You got bills that's stacking up. You got plants to take care of. You got a car note. Listen, you got to make sure you got gas in your car, because if you don't do it that evening, you ain't gonna be able to get around. You're gonna hate yourself in the morning. Anyway, I say all that to say, I went to brunch, and I've been brunching with the others on my side, which is nice and quiet, sometimes saltless, pepperless in the foods. But I ran into some areas where it's good white Southern food, not like Cracker Barrel. But like it's good and it's meaty and it's just, I'm like, dang,
how Cracker Barrel got all those? How Cracker Barrel got all those chains and not a lick of flavor? I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's a crazy mess. When I get in there, I feel like that one time that I went there, I feel like the ancestors were just running around crazy.
Mad at you. What the hell you doing in there?
I'm like, what is that in my ear? What is that in my ear? It was crazy. Anyways, I went to a place in Marietta. It's not Atlanta. They call it Atlanta, that area. But I went to a place in Marietta called Black House, and it is a Black experience. There wasn't a lot of people in there because I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm still I still have COVID anxiety. So I wanted to make sure I went at a time where I felt like it wasn't going to be super duper packed. But I did enjoy myself. They started playing. I don't know when they saw me walking in, I don't know if they thought they was like, she gotta be from Florida. And they just started playing all the Florida music. And then I don't know what I was coming from the bathroom, y'all. And my girlfriend happened to be recording. I was walking from the bathroom where one of the cooks tried to holler at me. And I was like, I'm going to the bathroom. But anyway, I was walking from the bathroom. And the floor is like that Cheesecake Factory floor. Ladies, if you got on high heels, you know what type of floor I'm talking about. Cheesecake Factory, slippity slides. You don't know if you're going to make it to the other side. So anyway, I walked past there. The DJ was playing all the music. And then I don't know what happened to my knees. They just dropped. Bam. And I said, oh, not the knees. The knees, honey. They were giving me everything I needed. I had lots of mimosas. It is a little pricey for the mimosas because who's doing $25 bottomless mimosas out here? They doing it for $12. But anyways, it was a good time. The next day I woke up. No, I got home, y'all. I took a nap 6 p.m. Didn't wake up till 11:30. And I said, whoa, did I miss the school bus? And I'm 45. So, and I was up, but that's the effects of brunching after 30, baby. You got to make sure you take a nap, and you got to make sure you're not driving to locations that are far, just in case. Uber, so you're not drinking and driving and all that good stuff. But anyway, that's my brunching over 30 story.
I lost my microphone, Rebecca. You're gonna have to talk a little bit while I get this.
Okay. Defund mimosas. Defund mimosas. Get those things out of here. I don't think those things should be legal, because I every time I drink those, I never get crazy. I never get crazy drunk, but I do I know that I don't know, something about it. You leave there and you don't know what you're gonna say out your mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Brunch.
If I had a man at home, it'd be a good time.
Exactly. I said brunch can lead to some dangerous times.
Yeah, no.
I digress.
If I had a man at home, it would be a good time. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, mimosas is dangerous. And so defund mimosas, though. If you have more than 2, you're criminal. And I had 6. All
right. That's when the Florida knees came in. Y'all go check her out on Instagram, because I was like, okay. No, you actually put it on Twitter too. I said she done put the Megan knees on Twitter.
Yeah. I never mix the two for real. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But if y'all want to see my life, I gotta go on Instagram.
Well, listen, we haven't talked about Will Smith except for that one day. But I want to talk about it real quick, because there's a clip from Bishop T.D. Jakes and Denzel Washington that went stupid viral last night. I haven't seen the clip, so I don't know.
Seen it either, so we're going in blind.
Yeah, we're going to watch it together. I don't know if it was like something amazing, but I know it's over 5 million views already, and it's only been out for a day. So here's T.D. Jakes speaking with Denzel Washington about what happened at the Oscars last Sunday.
Okay.
As you right now, Pastor Washington, you stepped in the middle of World War III. We were looking at Ukraine, and it happened on the Oscars when Will, who I love, smacked Chris, who I love. You came in as a senior statesman into that situation. Now, don't let me tell you about it. You tell me, what happened? What happened? What happened to these icons, these legends got into a fight in front of the world? What happened? It wasn't a fight. It was just one person slapping the taste out of the other one's mouth.
Well, there's a saying, when the devil ignores you, then you know you're doing something wrong. Wait a minute, I'm not done now. You know, the devil goes, oh no, leave him alone. He's my favorite. Don't you bother him.
Yeah.
Conversely, when the devil comes at you, maybe it's because you're trying to do something right. And for whatever reason, the devil got a hold of that circumstance that night. And fortunately, there were people there, not just me, but others in the Gap. Tyler Perry came immediately right over there with me, and some prayers, you know, keep it. I don't want to say what we talked about, but there, but for the grace of God, go any of us.
Yeah.
You know, who are we to condemn? You know, I don't know all the ins and outs of the situation, but I know the only solution was prayer.
You were laughing, Rebecca.
Yeah, I love Jesus so much. Black Jesus. I love Jesus. You mean this morning I got up, I made sure I get up every morning, I pray, I worship. I make sure I play worship music before I go into any hoodery activity or music. I read my word. When I'm working sometimes and I'm feeling stressed, I have T.D. Jakes because he's my pastor in the house. I have T.D. Jakes or his daughter on.
Sarah
Jakes or Cora. But I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it like this. You know, what we like to do sometimes, because we love, like, especially if we're a community. I mean, when we're a community, because not only do the church people do this, all communities do this. We're going to take care of ours all the time. We're never going to let our people look. Do you see how we even had the conversation amongst each other? We were picking a side, but when other people tried to come in of another race, you know, we made sure that this wasn't their conversation. So here we're looking at, you know, church folks just doing churchy things and, you know, saying that it was the devil got a hold of them. See, now if I was inside of that event, I would be, you know, right there, like, okay, but, you know, I'm not there to talk with T.D. Jakes and to have a conversation. I'm here with y'all. And I feel like I could be a little, you know what I'm saying? I don't got to be in the church right now. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to let y'all know how I feel about that. The devil didn't do that. Sometimes it be you. So I'm going to run that back. The devil, it don't always be the devil. It'd be easier for us to blame the devil.
Come on, somebody.
It really be you and your frustrations and your situations that you haven't dealt with. It don't literally be the devil. You have your own demons that you've created or things that have been happening to you, and you snapped in that moment. You did, and we got to start taking ownership. We can't always say, you know, I know me. Right now, they're trying to get me to go back into the office, and the first thing that I said,
the devil is a liar.
The devil's at work. The devil is busy. See how they're trying to get us back into the offices? Yeah, that's the first thing I say. But I have the option. I know what it will look like if I do walk away from the corporate world. That's going to be my decision, my whole. But that the show must go on. They can't stop. They can't stop the people from coming in because Rebecca don't want to go in. It's not going to work like that. Even though my reasoning may be great, whatever the case may be, I'm going to deal with. I make my choice to either go in or not. But it don't be the devil all the time. Sometimes it really be you. We can't blame everything on that. And I think these, especially elites in the Christian community, do pick and choose when they want to say, it wasn't the devil, it was you. And everybody be like, hallelujah, hallelujah. It'll be the regular folks. But then when it's somebody of stature,
somebody they like,
the devil got a hold of him. That wasn't him. Not him. And I'm like, okay, no, it's the same thing. Like, it was you. It really was you. And we have to take ownership.
It was Will.
Yeah, because sometimes it pulls us back from actually taking accountability for what we did. And I think the good book, they call it the good book still. I don't know what they're calling it nowadays, but the good book, it does tell you to take accountability for your actions. I don't know which verse, but I have read in places God is like, yeah, no, take accountability for what you did. You did that. He says, forgive them, Father, for they know not what. Isn't that what he said in the Bible?
That's what
for
they
know not. But baby, you got up out of your seat. You knew right there.
Had
you
time.
walked up them steps.
That was a long walk.
You walked up to the stage. You knew you fixed your hand. You put it in the air, and baby, you slapped that man 5. Then you turned around and walked back to your seat. You knew after that first step what you was about to go do. So, baby, they say, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, and confess your sins. And that was a sin. You need to go and say sorry. In that whole situation, I love me some Zell. I love me some Zaddy Zell. But I don't care who was praying with you at that moment. Right. I don't care what that moment. We have to call a thing a thing. I don't care who you are, what your stature is, where you are on the list. We do have to call a thing a thing. The devil didn't get up in him. That was Will Smith, who couldn't control himself in that moment.
Yeah, that's enough on that. I don't have anything to add to that because who was that? Flip Wilson, the old comedian, way before your time, Rebecca. Always said the devil made me do it. Nah, devil ain't make y'all do nothing. Y'all gonna stop giving the devil all this credit, right? I mean, whatever he do, he ain't as good as humans, because humans we're some pretty evil people by ourselves. We didn't need the devil. Vladimir Putin didn't need the devil to invade Ukraine. He just needed his ego. Will Smith didn't need the devil to slap Chris Rock. He just needed his ego. Anyway, I dig it, Rebecca. Yeah. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, and that's all I gotta say. And I'm as Christian and in the streets as they come. So you're gonna have to get what you get from me. And I've heard a lot of conversations surrounding this. At this point, I feel like what's gonna come of it, we're gonna see. I mean, I'm glad that we heard Denzel speak. I love Denzel. I would love Denzel to talk to me, and I would be all up in. If he told me he wanted to pray with me, I'd be speaking in tongues right there. Only because I know that he's genuinely. I can feel that he's genuinely. It looks like he's genuinely a good person. And I think that he wanted to do something for Will in that moment. I mean, we're going to go and try to protect our friends. And I think that's what we're seeing right now is them trying to protect theirs. Even in Chris Rock in that moment, they're not saying much of what they saw specifically from him just to protect this particular moment. But that's what we're basically seeing. But the devil ain't do that. That's all.
I'm following another story here, Rebecca. This is my favorite oligarch, the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, becomes Twitter's biggest shareholder. And this is according to the recount. Elon Musk has become Twitter's biggest shareholder, purchasing $2.9 billion worth of its stock. The Guardian reports that Musk had indicated interest in building his own social media platform just last week. Now, according to filings made with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, Musk now owns 9.2% stake, owns a 9.2% stake in Twitter. Comparatively, that's over 4 times the 2.25% stake that is owned by Twitter founder Jack Dorsey. So the guy who founded Twitter owns less of Twitter now than Elon Musk. Musk is one of Twitter's top 10 most popular users in the world with over 80 million followers on the platform. The Guardian reports that after news of Musk's purchase broke, shares in Twitter rose as much as 26%. And the jump added over $8 billion to the $31.5 billion market value for Twitter. So it's a good thing for Twitter's stocks today. But I want us to take a listen to this clip because, as I was explaining in the production meeting last night, Twitter is a problem for Elon Musk. Twitter is a problem. Twitter is one of the places where we traditionally have had enough energy and enough juice to challenge even the richest people in the world. Elon Musk admits as to why he's buying Twitter. Let's take a listen in.
Elon Musk announces, I wouldn't say he announces, discloses this morning that he's taking a 9.2% stake in Twitter. This is technically what's called a passive stake at the moment, but I don't think Elon Musk does anything in a passive way. I think this is the beginning of something bigger. And the question is, what is he doing and why is he doing it? Over the past couple of weeks, he puts polls out on Twitter saying, do you think that Twitter should be open source? Do you think it should be more free speech? He is has, I would say, a libertarian streak, a more sort of laissez-faire approach to this. Yes. He would like to do social media the way, frankly, this new Trump truth effort would be. By the way, that stock for Trump's back falling today because here is Elon Musk maybe trying to do the same thing.
So if you have a problem with Twitter, just buy it.
But I don't think
that's what Elon Musk is doing. Now, David, I put a link in there to a tweet that I sent. Funny thing about this tweet that I sent about Elon Musk, it had like 97,000 likes or something like that. And the thing is funny now, when you before I say this, let me make something clear. Social media is only as effective as the people who control the algorithm. Period. I don't care. And this is why Twitter has been a good space. Twitter has been a good space because it didn't really matter if you had a lot of money. It didn't matter if you had a lot of followers. If you got out there and you start talking your stuff and you start speaking your truths on Twitter and other people agreed with you, they could find you, follow you, amplify you. Quite literally how I built everything that I've got going on right here is through like just nailing it on Twitter over and over again, growing it authentically. You grab control over that and you adjust the algorithm by one digit, by one variable, and you're able to neutralize that like Facebook. Facebook, you got to play to pay on Facebook. You're not just going to go viral on Facebook just because you got good material. You got to pay Facebook. Twitter used to be a place where I never spent a dime. Record check, fact check. I've never spent a dime on Twitter, period. And I was able to build the following that I have. Elon Musk does not like that. And so now you can't even find this. If you search Nikolai Tesla and Elon Musk, don't search the whole sentence. Just search Nikolai Tesla and Elon Musk, and you see it on the screen. My tweet with 94,000 likes will not come up. You're going to see some other people, giving Elon Musk some praise. So anyway, control over the algorithm is the most important thing. And Elon Musk just bought 9.2% of Twitter's algorithm.
It sucks because he has the power. And this is where people abuse their power. He's throwing a fit. And so he's mad that Twitter can have the power to cancel him or affect his money. And for him, it's not about the money. It's more about his, these rich people worry about how their agendas, not only their agendas, they really care what people think of them. So if there's a tweet out there about how they look, what they're doing, it's not even the fact that the tweet or the news story of them telling the truth about the deeds that may affect people that they're doing, their agendas, right? It's about, oh my God, they want to cancel me. And it's kind of a real conversation in the state that's building a community. I have money. Let me go throw a fit and let me go and purchase shares of Twitter. Also, in the same thing, he's looking, he's like, he's putting up these polls and asking basically, do you think that Twitter has the right to mute us or to take away our freedom of speech, right? But he now, can control what people see when it comes to his name. So the same conversation and these same arguments that these people are having, it's always something that we're going to see that's hypocritical. And it's all because he's rich. The fits that he throws, like the tantrums that he's throwing, that applies to him saying that he's making a world change by purchasing Twitter and now giving you the ability to have free speech when it's not even that. It's just him throwing a fit and wanting him to have control to say what he wants to say and what people say about him.
Exactly. You think about I'm thinking about one of my friends, and I said my friend Ken Klippenstein, his name almost escaped me that quick. You know, a guy like that, investigative journalist, does a lot of freedom of information requests. He has himself given, there's a couple of us who have been able to give Elon Musk a black eye on Twitter. Now, let's be real. He's the richest man in the world. That might be the only place we could give that man a black eye, rhetorically speaking. Twitter might be literally the only place on the face of the planet where average cats who are just trying to speak their truth can actually reach these oligarchs. And what does this clown do? He buys Twitter. Well, that's okay. We got other solutions for you, Elon Musk. How's that recall going on the Teslas that are exploding? How's that going, Elon?
Or the ones where you have people driving into stuff, you know, the hands-free stuff, driving you off the highways and in the wrong directions and all kinds of mess. It's ridiculous. And then, you know, the whole meta thing, and then him talking about putting chips into people. He wants control. And this is somebody that, you know, was taking one of the most freest platforms, even though we may not like the conversations that happen in the Twitter space. We may not like those things, but you can get on there and talk your junk. They can trace it back to 2010, 2009 of some stuff that you were saying that is just ridiculous. And now you've changed, but they won't forget that. Now
they ain't gonna ever forget it.
They ain't gonna forget it. Now it's you see, you gotta have hands when you on Twitter and you defending your tweets from 2008 and trying to let them know that you are a new person. You either care what these people think about you, or you continue to do the work that you've been doing. It's all kinds of things, but this is a space that, you know, a lot of people have been rocking with, and this is where their voices are heard. Even if only one person likes their tweet, it's enough for them to join in on conversations, because they know they can go into another conversation and make a magnificent tweet, and everybody will agree with them or not agree with them. But this is one of those spaces where we can all just sit, cancel each other, go to sleep, wake up in the morning, cancel more people. You know, who gives a damn? But it's like, I don't understand why he feels like he needs to have control. I don't understand that. But this is what the rich do. This is what people, when we're living in this, you know, times of capitalism, and these capitalists, this is what they do. They don't care. They're gonna say, oh my God, I woke up and I have a bad attitude because Twitter people don't like me, so I'm just gonna go ahead and take away your rights on Twitter slowly but surely, and then I'm gonna get you guys to put chips into your bodies.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna partner with Meta and create Ready Player One. That right, where basically everyone's living in stacked trailer homes because no one can afford to live anywhere, but we can all afford to be in the metaverse, right? We can all afford to give them our money online. This is the world that Elon Musk wants. And so when I say, listen, I'm going to go one step further, and what I'm going to say is not attributable to anybody else in the morning show, right? Anybody, especially not Rebecca, because she's on screen with me right now. But Elon Musk is a fascist. Elon Musk is trying to dominate and control the world, not only with his money, but with politics. And he's trying to use his money, obviously, as a way to commit anything he wants to do politically. The best example is Bolivia. Bolivia is a nation that is rich in lithium, and he needs lithium for his batteries in the Tesla cars. A few years ago, he suggested that we just commit a coup. The United States should commit a coup in Bolivia because we can, just because he wanted to. All so that he can get batteries for his Tesla vehicle. Now, when I say Elon Musk is a fascist, clearly that's a statement of opinion. But if you ask me, it's a statement of fact. And it's a fact that people associated with him, like Kanye West, who's his newest, bestest bosom buddy, are associating also with fascists. And so I think we got to really be mindful, man. They're not playing around. They are buying these platforms so they could shut us down. So anyway.
They are buying these platforms so they can shut us down for us not to utilize them. But who is really going to shut down their Twitter? Who's really going to delete their Twitter because they don't like the person that owns it? I mean, it should be that easy for us, but some people, that's where they go and get these thoughts off of their chest. That's where they go find places to
turn Twitter into Facebook. And
sucks.
Twitter's dead.
It sucks. But then you got Amazon. Remember, we were up in arms. I mean, we got people who, Chris Moss was still fighting, unionizing and everything like that. And
they got that victory
say you
too.
haven't ordered from Amazon since, I'm gonna look at you crazy, because what they do is they make it inevitable for you not to utilize Amazon. So yeah,
I mean, me, I ain't gonna use Amazon, but I would say it's really difficult. It's
they make it
everywhere.
difficult for you, and the people who really just focus on who've had their sense of belonging, and it sucks that you do have your sense of belonging on Twitter, but I ain't gonna judge nobody. Like, if that's where you feel like you're heard the most, then people are not going to delete it. But it sucks that the people who are now owning it, who are taking ownership in it, who are going to take control of it, who can shut it down anytime they want when they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
It's like,
no, I don't think Twitter is permanent. I don't think Facebook or Twitter are permanent. I think that there are things that they can do that will destroy the platform. Now, will it go away? I mean, as much as MySpace, I think Facebook and Twitter have the same capacity to make wrong steps. And with Elon Musk getting this amount of share, I mean, just look at what he's done to other companies, right? They might go up a little bit in money, right? Twitter had a little boost, $26 billion boost in their market cap today. Great. But look at Tesla over the long run. Now they have a quarter of recalls of everything they've ever created. Elon Musk is dumb, and he's narcissistic, and he's a megalomaniac. And you can't tell me that he's not going to apply pressure on Twitter that is going to be damaging to how it functions. And I think one of the main things is, like, Twitter functions. Twitter works. It works. You send something, you know what I mean? They don't have an edit button. Now, if he brings an edit button, then maybe I'll back up and be like,
well,
okay,
I saw that on Twitter. They tweeted out maybe like a few days ago.
That was April Fool's. That was April Fool's joke. Assholes, Twitter.
I don't like April Fool's. It gives me anxiety. So I probably wasn't thinking it gives me anxiety.
But Rebecca,
Elon Musk is not dumb, and he's not brilliant. He's making moves with his money that a lot of people, in power, who are just sitting. He knows what he's doing. He does know what he's doing. And if he doesn't know what he's doing, he'll go pay somebody to know what they're doing, so that he can say that he.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could hire staff to not look as dumb.
But he is a narcissist. He's a megalomaniac, as you said. He's a narcissist.
But he's not. But he's not. But I also want to say he is actually unintelligent. He's not an inventor.
Brilliant.
He's not a scientist. He's not a scientist at all.
No, he's not. But he's not dumb. He makes moves that he knows are gonna work on.
He's an idiot. I mean, we could pull some clips. We'll pull some clips. He's a effing idiot when he talks. He talks like he doesn't have. He has money. He doesn't have intelligence.
Yeah. If I had money too, I play stupid every day and be calling myself intelligent.
Well, he doesn't have to play. He does a good job. He's just like Donald Trump. Come on, he's like Donald Trump. Like, listen, a lot of people are gonna say Donald Trump is a good businessman. Nah, he just has enough money to make mistakes. Like, when you have enough money to cover over your bankruptcies, then you get to still be called a good businessman in America, when we know Donald Trump isn't. So all these cats, they just got a lot of money. But let me tell you whose money couldn't stop a black man. You already mentioned it. Amazon Labor Union. You already mentioned Christian Smalls. They had a victory over the weekend. I want to give him another shout out. We did it at the top of the show, but I want to give the Amazon Labor Union a shout out for doing something that was almost impossible to think that it could happen. Amazon, one of the biggest employers in the world, has been able to get this big without having a single union organized. And Rebecca, you called out his name, Christian Smalls, and everyone at the Staten Island office warehouse, they organized and they voted victoriously to unionize the very first union in Amazon's history. So shout out to that brother.
Yeah, shout out to that brother. You know what's crazy, Ben? I actually, since we're talking about unionizing, I've heard of this. There are people who started out unionizing very early on before it became a thing where people felt like they can actually do this against these big corporations and, in their local areas. I have seen recently a video floating around of a 19-year-old Starbucks barista. I hope I'm saying that right. And she was crying and, her unionizing and things like that. And they found out about it and they came at her really hard and forced her to, they fired her. And, but basically they forced her to say that she didn't want to work anymore. They pressured her. So they started taking small things and, just ripping her apart about them, using words like she demanded somebody to take a shift. And she said, I never would do that. Mind you, she's 19. And when I think of 19, I know a lot of people might think that as grown. But when I saw her crying and she said, can I call my mom in that moment? I thought, gosh, this is a baby, and they're ripping her apart because she wants to stand for something, especially against this place. But she loves the place that she works, so she wants to make it better for everybody who works around her, including herself, but everybody who comes in to work around her. The working environment to be somewhere safe for people. And I just watched her, and I thought about these, and I thought about Christian Small, and I thought about a lot of these people who will try to be made, a lot of these people who are made to be small in the eyes of these higher ups, like the managers, and the supervisors, and who else the corporation sends out to go do the dirty work on their behalf. And so that to me really, really strikes a nerve, because, you know, they'll rip you apart. Amazon tried to call Christian Smalls stupid. They called him stupid. They said that he wasn't capable of, you know, bringing these kind of things up. And they talked about how he had to be uneducated in the way that he spoke. This man is somebody who went viral for doing something that a lot of people were afraid to do. He took a stance. He unionized.
That's right. Lost his job doing it.
Lost his job behind it. And now this is what we're seeing with this 19-year-old girl. And so, you know, shouts out to her and a lot of the people who are dealing with that, just to demand better working spaces.
That's right.
Safer working spaces, healthier working spaces.
Because honestly, Rebecca, the Christian Smalls got started at the beginning of the pandemic. When you talk about just safe, you know, at first it wasn't even about wages. It was about, can our co-workers not die from COVID-19? And he started reporting as their manager saying, hey, you know, there are people getting sick from COVID-19, and they fired him. So he decided to stick around and started unionizing effort. And it's taken 2 years. He was without work. They had a GoFundMe for him. So he's been out there just hustling and grinding for 2 years and pulled off something that, I mean, we haven't seen anything like this in, decades. I think they're saying 60, 70 years since we've seen anything remotely like this.
Yeah. And I think, you know, shout out to everybody who's holding it down. It's hard out here. A baby 19-year-old who's in school right now, you know, she's 19. She just got out of high school. She's studying, I think, something in like media at her school. You think that and she really was putting her heart into, she said, I love this place. I love my coworkers. I love it all. And they're ripping her apart. They're ripping her apart. But anyway, shout out to her. And everybody who's
and Christian and if I'm not mistaken, there was you mentioned Starbucks, but there was a successful organizing. I mean, I think people are coming to terms with the fact that these jobs ain't really here for us, right? Let's be real. They write you a check only because they have to. Yeah. If they could get your labor for free, it's called an internship. They would do it.
If
they could get your labor for free,
they're still trying to do that and label it an apprenticeship for the older ones. Like that's what they're doing. You could have so much experience, and that's why I say what the pandemic taught me was that when people were getting PPP loans, when people were getting that unemployment money, all these jobs are saying, you know what? You don't need 10 years of experience. Come on in. You just need about a year of experience. Oh, you need 6 months. You need 5 days of experience. You want to be a cop? All you got to do is be somebody who knows how to shoot a gun. Like, this is what we were seeing. But what the pandemic did teach me is that a lot of stuff is a lie. It's a lie. You gonna pay me. You gonna pay me. Because all of a sudden you guys were putting up we pay $15 now. We're looking for people to work. All of a sudden, now your wages went up. You guys were on $9.50 for the last 70 years. Now nobody ain't working with y'all, and now it's like, oh, we're gonna pay you guys $25 plus signing bonus of $10,000. Like,
with an asterisk. With an asterisk, though, right? They'll put $15 an hour with an asterisk, and it starts at $8.25, and after 5 years, it'll get up to $15 an hour. Some craziness like that. Like, I've seen it. McDonald's is pulling that fast one on a lot of workers around here. So y'all got to watch out for that fine print.
I didn't know that, Ben. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought, I same thing with me. Like, I saw the sign that said $15 an hour, and I said, y'all could have been doing this the whole time. And one of the viewers said, Ben, look at the asterisk. And I was like, damn. There they go. They put a sign out that says 15 an hour to get you in the door, but you got to work 5 years to get that over at McDonald's.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, one more thing before we get ready to get out of here. I want to play, actually not play. I want to talk with you, Rebecca, about two things. First is Title 42. We talked about it last week. We talked about how the Russian asylum seekers, and you mentioned it, it was cool. Let them come in, but also everybody else, and how Title 42 was used specifically to whip Haitians, our brothers and sisters, at the Black people at the border. Joe Biden has since said we're going to do away with Title 42. Almost felt like he heard Black folks. Little too late. But now even the Republican Party is saying, wait a minute, hold on. If you ever thought America wasn't going to be racist for 1 second, no. They are suing Joe Biden to keep Title 42 in place. It shouldn't be in place. It's racist to begin with. Joe Biden actually has used it against Black folks at the border. You would think Republicans are saying, hey, no, we want you to keep doing that, Joe. Don't stop doing what you're doing at the border. They're suing to keep Title 42 in place. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts it wasn't almost like Joe Biden heard Black people. He just used it for his own. We knew that what he can use it as a weapon. He used it as a weapon against Black people. He didn't hear them, because now the reason why he wants to do away with Title 42 is very interesting. I need people to hear me and understand. Last week when I had this conversation with about this whole situation, it bothered me that a lot of people who don't follow the show were just saying, oh, Haitians need to stop trying to come anyway. Haiti is a beautiful country. People who can sustain it, people who are living in areas where they can sustain. I have some family members who are living in areas where they can sustain. Then I have some family members who are living in an area where they cannot at all. So understand this. People come here not because they want to leave their countries to come and find America to be more beautiful, whatever. They don't want to come and have to work and be put in the system and things. They come here because they want to live. Their president has been assassinated, and I'm just making these points to be clear. The president has been assassinated. There was another earthquake over there. They already were dealing with issues, amongst their government and their government lowering their already ridiculously low wages. Americans and other countries have been coming in and taking resources and claiming it as their own, paying the people of Haiti pennies, close to nothing, in exchange for their land at that. In exchange for their lands. And so they've been going through a lot of things, the earthquakes, the hurricanes, the assassination of their president, this ongoing investigation. They tried to kill the first lady, the former first lady now, and her having try to come in and still heal the land. People can't live right now. So they're looking for places to live. And if they got family members out in America, they're going to try to find a way to get there the quickest, fastest way. And this was just a few months ago. I need y'all to understand. This was in September, the end of September last year. It went through September. They were at the border for a minute before it even got on the media. So I need y'all to understand and be clear, because I feel like I have to walk y'all through this. Joe Biden said, hell no. When they wanted to say Title 42, when they wanted to say, at least can we stay here because you guys did a rush for asylum seekers when they were the other people. But us here at the border, you're saying that we can't stay. And all of a sudden you started speaking of Title 42 and saying that COVID-19, we're afraid of getting it. We must get them out of here. We cannot have an influx of COVID-19. We care about, we're still trying to figure out COVID-19. This was in September. The conversation started to change as we started to hear more and more about. Sorry, y'all, I'm trying to hear what's going on in my background.
I heard that too. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, we started to hear more and more about, okay, we want to move away from COVID-19. This is after one night we saw them Haitians under the bridge. The next night we did not. And it never was on the media again. And we saw with our own eyes what was happening. Those Black people, I don't care how you want to word it, how you want to say it. We saw this on video in full motion. We saw them being whipped, and you guys are saying you want to, you guys are telling us you wanted to investigate. But anyways, you said that they couldn't stay. As we move forward, Joe Biden said that we want to move away from the COVID-19 thinking. We're healing the land. The numbers are going down. We are going back into offices, and Ukraine needs us. So we're going to push to the side Title 42, which prevented those same people a few months ago, not the same people, people of a different race from a black country, which prevented them from staying here. But we're going to allow these people, Ukrainians, we're actually going to give them the red carpet treatment. We're going to fly them in. We're going to make sure they're housed. We're going to give them money, because all of a sudden now we got money to give. We're going to give them money, opportunity. We're going to help them get on their feet as their country is in turmoil and is unlivable for most of them. Title 42 did that. And the reason why Republicans want them to keep it is because they can use it to weaponize. And I don't care what people say. It's not about being a Democrat or a Republican in this. And sometimes they're standing on the same side of an issue. You could be rocking red or blue when it comes to politics and still be racist as hell.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
You could be skin folk and not kinfolk. You could be Candace Owens leading the conversations about these things that are hurting people who look just like her, just to make $1. You could be a talking head on Fox News about Title 42, giving misinformation. Somebody hit me up about yesterday, and I went into my request, where all the DMs be at. And somebody was saying, sister, is that you? A hotel. Sister, is that you that I saw on the screen saying those words? As a person who is first generation, those black people were not being whipped. The government placed them there to have that certain conversation and put that out there for us not to see what's going on, and to remove that idea that the government is doing something else in the background. And I'm like, get out of here. And then said, oh, you must be a Democrat. I don't represent nothing right now. Everything is a lie to me. The more I see that they're fighting this bipartisan idea, and it really does, it's not benefiting us. If I knew what Joe Biden's agenda would be and he not roll with none of it when it came to us, the things that we want to highlight, I want to know what is the things that he's doing now, the things that he promised, the things that he said once he is seated he would do. And he said that he would help Haitians. And once he got seated, a lot of things happened with Haitians, and there was nothing that we can say was help for them. I am Haitian. I will always use my platform to speak about Haitians, and in any black countries who are being pushed to the bottom of the list, who are being mistreated, who don't benefit from things that benefit other immigrants of another race. If we can't talk about that, if we can't have that conversation while still saying that Ukrainians still need to be protected, I don't know what conversations I want to have with anybody who's in my DMs. I won't have any conversation with you. I just looked at it and I laughed, because I'm like, I can be able to say that Ukrainians deserve to be protected, and also point out the disparities in how Haitians or black immigrants from black countries are treated, and juxtapose that to how white immigrants are treated.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. No, that's exactly right. It's the easiest thing in the world to do is to find somebody to pick on. It's to find somebody to blame, right? And the black community is not without that, right? You called them a hotep, probably was. That type of thinking looks to hate on everything that is not them specifically. How can I make it plain? It's like, if you're not there is white supremacy. Let me start with white supremacy, because I want to make sure I don't let them off the hook before we get out of here. White supremacy is at the core of all of this. I don't care if it's a black person who's mad at a Ukrainian. I don't care if it's an Asian person who's mad at a Russian that came across. I don't care what the complexity of it is. At the core of all of it in the United States of America, it is white supremacy. And if you find yourself, not talking to you, Rebecca, I'm talking to the air, to the universe. If black folks find yourselves on the same side of the argument as white supremacists, you need to slow down and think again. Because if you're sitting here talking about Haitians this or you got to be a specific descendant of that, if you're sitting here dividing us in the same way as white supremacists, you might be doing the bidding of white supremacy.
Yeah,
but
and I don't deal, Ben, your camera, but I don't deal with that anymore. I used to, and I've been covering Haiti for as long as I've had, been a voice in this space, which has been over 5 years. But I will say that I don't choose to get into those quarrels, because then it puts me in a place where I'm like, oh, well, if I'm Democrat, I have to have this talking point. Or if I'm more liberal, or if I'm more left leaning, or if I'm more right leaning, I have to, or if I'm more conservative, I have to have this kind of, I don't go by that anymore, because that prevents me from having true, real conversations. And I think what qualifies me is not only that, I got degrees in this and Meganese, but it's that it's my actual reality. I don't only talk about this from a prompter or something that's written for me. This is my experience. So that's what qualifies me in these types of conversations, especially when it surrounds Haiti. When I'm telling you what was done to those people, this is firsthand accounts, because this is me talking to my cousin as he's dealing with that on the ground. You understand what I'm saying? So when I talk about, packing up and getting things over to Haiti, that's because my family lives there, and we're experiencing what happened after the assassination, after the earthquake, after the hurricane. These are true experiences. And back to back. So they deserved something. They got family. We may not be living the best, but we were willing to open our doors for our family, and we always gonna do that, especially in this moment. But when we look and see other people being treated differently, and I'm looking for, and like I said last time, what is the reason? What is the reason Title 42 is being discussed? I don't care how they're discussing it right now, but Title 42 benefited some folks. Title 42, they literally removed it from their eyes and became Stevie Wonder to Title 42 when it came to Ukrainians, though. Title 42 benefited the conservatives because it helped keep immigrants at bay. It helped keep, so to speak, a border wall up. This is the same folks who said ain't no pandemic, ain't no COVID-19. They're only going to utilize it when it works for them.
That's right.
So, but I'm looking for the reason. I'm searching. I'm reaching with short arms. What was the reason that none of this could, in any way, shape, or form, even if it was on the conservative end of it or the liberal end of it, why didn't none of that work? Why didn't we find any loopholes?
They didn't want to find it. They're not going to find it. They're not interested in finding the loopholes for Black people.
It's because they're Black. They're brown. This is the reason. There's no other anything, nothing. The conversations have been up and down, but all of a sudden, they're throwing all kinds of things in the air when it came to that. And they were saying, Rebecca, do you not believe in due process? We have due process here. If Title 42 is in place, we're going to follow that order and we're going to move forward with that. That's why the Haitians were sent back, because we cannot take in asylum seekers right now during a pandemic. To some, that's understandable. But that goes all out the window with what I've been seeing with Ukrainians. It does.
The Afghanistanians?
Yes,
the Afghans, rather?
Well, with Afghans, same thing. Airbnb stepped in on the Oscars. Was it the Oscars that we were watching? The Grammys. They're singing. The Ukrainian artists, and they're singing, and about what's going on in Ukraine, as they should. We weren't talking about Ukraine months ago. Biden mentioned Haiti in his campaign. When he was running, he said if he is seated, he will make sure that the people of Haiti have a voice and they are protected. He hasn't lived up to that. He hasn't done anything for them.
Not at all. They're going to have a hard time in the midterms, but they expect that. The Democrats are in a really bad position because they haven't delivered on their promises, particularly to Black people. But go ahead, Rebecca.
Yeah. So I'm always gonna have this conversation. I'm always gonna fight for it. I'm always gonna fight about it. I'm always no matter what. But I know you got to go, Ben, and so I got to go too. But
before we do, I wanted you to get a chance to talk. We have some clips on Ketanji Brown Jackson. I covered it at the beginning of the show.
Okay.
She made it out of the committee hearing, barely. And this is just another example of what you're talking about, right? The disparate treatment of white folks to black folks.
Mm-hmm.
How qualified that black woman is compared to Amy Coney Barrett. So we got some clips, and I'd love to hear what you think about that before I get out of here, Rebecca.
Yeah, let's play a clip. Let me see. Just play me a clip or two.
Run the clip of these now, just before, because this clip is triggering, but it's triggering because of, well, these are these mediocre white folks who are trying to tell this distinguished black woman that she doesn't deserve to be there. And then we have a second clip to really show how hypocritical they really are. Run the first clip, David.
Not a single Republican senator asked her about her high school yearbook, engaged in the kind of personal slanders that Democrats have made a business about. If the questions were hard, it is because her record is at the extreme. If Judge Jackson is confirmed, I believe she will prove to be the most extreme and the furthest left justice ever to serve on the United States Supreme Court.
I asked her a very simple question. I asked her to define the word woman. Wasn't a trick question. It's something that everybody learned in grade school science class. But Judge Jackson refused to answer. The fact that she couldn't or wouldn't answer that question speaks volumes. It tells me that Judge Jackson is beholden to the radical left that is teaching our children that they can choose their own sex.
But if we're in charge, she would not have been before this committee. You would have had somebody more moderate than this. So I want you to know right now, the process you started to go to a simple majority vote is going to rear its head here pretty soon, where we're in charge. Then we'll talk about judges differently.
Judge Jackson habitually sympathizes with criminals over victims. As a trial judge, Judge Jackson could only give the benefit of the doubt to one criminal at a time.
He can't even finish his
As
thoughts.
a Supreme Court justice, she would be able to give the benefit to criminals nationwide in all cases.
Nationwide.
Have you ever seen someone who looks as evil and just like, and then his name is Tom Cotton? He might as well be called Jim Crow.
It just gives me in the fields vibes. He gives me a little Ben, you gone again. He gives me a little dirty on the horse, trying to talk disrespectful to the black folks. He just gives me that. And then Cruz swears that he's Hispanic. I'm like, let me see. Like, what is your accent like? Like, Hispanic folks, can you tell me if this man is really, because he just ain't giving that to me. But anyways, neither here or there. I think that, Ben, we were talking about stupid, dumb. Is dumb as hell.
They're as dumb as Elon Musk. They're all dumb. They're all together on this.
Now this one is dumb. He don't even come with nothing brilliant. He doesn't utilize the people around him to even grab onto their brains and say that was his work. I mean, he tried that, but he was caught on camera. It's just all bad. And then when he gets caught in his dumbness, he'll blame his daughter, his child, on the thing. He's dumb. He's dumb as hell. But I say this to say,
and he didn't take up for his wife when Donald Trump called his wife ugly. Ted Cruz.
Oh, he dumb. I mean, see, that was a moment where you could have. That I would say, like, you instill inside of you that Will Smith spirit. I would have said that's all right. You talking about my wife? You know, you now you calling her ugly. But anyway, right. I say this to say, you see how he started off the conversation? Did he say high school yearbook? Did you see how old she is? Not saying that because black is not cracking on her because she's giving me what I need. But did he say high school yearbook?
That's what he said.
He said, did y'all investigate her high school yearbook? He didn't even say the phrases that she used. He didn't. He said these were the The things that she said in there were the conversations that Democrats are using. Y'all, high school yearbook for a woman who has been through college, law school, a sitting judge, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, they're trying to bring, was it Kavanaugh? Which one was the one that likes beer? Well, yeah, it was Brett Kavanaugh, because they went back to his yearbook. But they went back to his yearbook because he allegedly assaulted someone.
And then Blackburn, sweetie, sweetie. She is the lead. She's the lead Karen.
She's struggling over there.
That little heifer. She got no, look at her. No bit. Her arguments were that she tried to make Ketanji to be some kind of child, some kind of person who was okay with child pornography. But then told her, I believe that you're
the one with the porn book last week.
I don't remember. They all had something. But my thing is, they stayed on that. They stayed on her. I think CRT, Blackburn, I believe, was speaking about that. And told her I would have, and then said what she would have rathered Ketanji say. And that bothered me. Because I think Ketanji said, I'm glad to be here. I would love to be confirmed, for something. And she said, I would have rathered you say, for this country or something like that. And I was like, bitch, sorry, y'all. Sorry for the kids who are watching. But you don't tell me what I need to say about what I'm feeling. I've already been ripped apart. You guys have pulled out nothing and tried to make it something and made this made this everything except about my qualifications.
That's right. That's right.
You pulled out stuff from before I had children. You pulled out stuff from when I was a child. I didn't plan to bomb a school like the people. I didn't show up to protest with guns in my hand. I didn't do any of that. I was having fun with my friends, and then I moved on. I grew up. I became a judge. Y'all saw it fit that I became a judge. This nation saw it fit that I became a judge. And you're picking and choosing. You're picking me apart for small things that that don't represent me. You guys know that doesn't represent me. And you're feeding this to the media. And you're making sure you make a circus out of this because you guys think that I'm a circus animal. You guys don't see me for who I am. You guys see me as somebody who can take it, all the punches, and you're letting the world watch me in some kind of zoo, some kind of exhibit. And I got to take it just so that I can get to this seat and make it to this seat so that I can make a change in this nation so that some other Black girl can know that she can be in this place too. I got to take these whippings and lashes in the front of everybody.
Right. And from these unqualified, untalented Neanderthals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Neanderthals. I know that word may get some people. That's what they are. That's what they are. They should be the ones that we should be looking at in some kind of circus. This is what they're doing up there. It's a circus. It's a circus. Whew. Anywho, we're at the end. Absolutely. If you guys thought that you heard the rumbling in the background, that was my tummy. That was my tummy.
You sure that wasn't the thunder?
It wasn't the thunder this time. That is my tummy. That's my tummy. I'm hungry. We're at the end of the show. Ketanji, I definitely am going to be watching. I want to see that confirmation, and I hope that people take to the streets and have a party for her. I know that we celebrate. People go to the clubs for celebrities that they don't even know. We need to go to the club, pop a couple bottles in the name of Ketanji, make every white person mad. I might go up to the Target up the street and just start yelling, Ketanji was confirmed. Ketanji was confirmed. Like all through Target. But anyway,
y'all better get this girl some bail money.
We're at the end of the show. I love you guys so much. Mean it. It's Tuesday, Taco Tuesdays. Go eat some tacos for me. I'm about to go ahead and log into this corporate job. They're trying to get me to go in, y'all, but I'm telling you guys, they already set a date too. I'm not going in. So
The devil been busy.
The devil's busy. The devil is at work. I love you guys.
Denzel.
I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
See you next time, Rebecca. Take care, everybody.
Really use a change of scenery. Yeah. Everybody smoking all the greenery. Yeah. Close the match 'cause they were handed down to me. But I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse, I could be a hater like you. It could all be worse. Pills to make the man, but that poison's gonna kill you. From the inside out. So right now, say it with your chest now, say it with your chest now. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it out. It's your time. Oh, cheers to all the haters, 'cause you proved to me that rising to the top was my destiny. And you can see whatever from behind me, but I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse, I could be a hater like you. It could all be worse. Clothes to make the man, but that poison's gonna kill you. From the inside out, it's time to say it with your chest now, say it with your chest now. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take